At that moment, a thunderbolt flashed outside the window, and beams of rain crashed against the glass. I clutched the cell phone in my hand and held my breath, not daring to make a sound. But I suddenly realized that the door to the room was unlocked. I took a deep breath and stepped on the ground with my bare feet. Though I had arrived at the door with minimal movement. But I didn't realize that Alice's ears were so sharp. "I hear voices, Anna. You're still up, aren't you?" I shuddered and bit my lip. Alice added, "I've heard your footsteps. What's happening? Why don't you say something?" I forced myself to calm down and was about to lock the door when I realized that the door could not be unlocked at all. "I'm worried about you. May I come in?" Alice's voice was tinged with worry. My breath hitched. I realized that Alice would absolutely open the door and come in if I didn't make a sound. I steadied my breathing and said, "Anna, I just woke up to use the restroom. I'm a little tired today. We'll talk tomorrow." A long silence fell on the door. The last thing I heard Alice say was "good." I breathed a sigh of relief. But then, my cell phone rang again. Caller ID, it's Alice's name. I frowned and picked up the phone anyway. "Anna. Is it Anna?" Alice's voice seemed surprised and incredulous. "It's me." I don't understand what Alice meant by that. But the next second, the sound of her bawling with excitement came from the other end of the phone. "These days, I've dialed your number countless times like a madman. People say I'm crazy, but I just want to hear your voice again." An incredulous thought rose in the back of my mind. Soon, Alice's next words verified my suspicions. "Anna, you may not believe what I'm saying right now, but I have to tell you that in 4 hours, you'll be dead. The time I'm at now, it's a week from now, and I've just come from your funeral. You fell from the 3rd floor of the villa and landed dead on the back of your head, and the police ruled that you had lost your footing, but I didn't believe it at all because I overheard Smith on the phone in the morning before we went up the hill. He bought you a huge accident insurance policy. He must have premeditated to kill you, Anna, that night. I kept trying to talk to you about it, but you didn't give me the chance. Perhaps this call is God's chance for us, Anna. Please leave the room at once and come to me. I will protect you," Alice said sharply. At this moment, the call came to an abrupt end. Once again, my cell phone showed the length of the call as 1 minute. Remaining calls, 4. My hand shook uncontrollably as I gripped the phone. Did Alice just want to have a chat with me to tell me about Smith's insurance policy? I turned my head, only to find that Smith had woken up at some point. His eyes were open, looking straight at me. For a moment, a creepy feeling rose up in the back of my mind. "Smith, you're awake. I just couldn't wake you up no matter how hard I tried." I gave a forced smile. Smith cocked his head and looked at me. "I don't know what's going on today. My head is heavy." He looked at me and said lustfully, "Anna, I don't feel like I'm in the right state right now, and I suspect it's the bottle of water I drank at night that's the problem." I thought back to the evening when Alice handed us water, 1 room temperature and 1 ice. Smith knew I wasn't in the habit of drinking ice water, so he was sure to go with that cold mineral water. Did Alice take advantage of our habits and make Smith drink the questionable bottle of water? "Anna, I've actually been wanting to tell you that there seems to be something wrong with Alice, but you're so good with her that I just couldn't find the right opportunity to say it. Take a look at this video." Smith pulled a video from his cell phone. This video is a videotaped video of our engagement 3 months ago. The video shows Smith and I smiling shyly with the blessing of the crowd. At that moment, the camera swept over Alice's face. She gave an extremely strange look. Alice looked like she was smiling. But her eyes were deliberately open extremely wide, looking at us dead on. Honestly, I was shocked by this look on Alice's face. For as long as we've known each other, she's come to me as a big-hearted, simple-minded girl. After watching the video that day, I felt something was a little off, so I went looking for some pictures of the three of us together before. I got goosebumps after looking at these pictures from Smith's phone. The expression on Alice's face in each photo is quite congenial. She stared at me with a leathery, exaggerated and deliberate smile. Afterward, I went to investigate some of Alice's past. Do you remember, she once told you that she used to get bullied by her roommate in high school? I nodded. Alice did say something about this. She was collectively bullied by her roommates in high school, and then she changed schools. For that reason, I used to be heartbroken for her. Smith took a deep breath as he showed me a screenshot of the news. On March 1, 2024, there was an accidental fire in classroom 405 at Osaka Middle School, killing all 3 people in the classroom, with the exception of one student who survived because he was late returning to school. Osaka Middle School is the school Alice used to go to. My heart thumped up. It's something that Alice never told me. I contacted Alice's high school classmate, and she told me that the fire back then, which the police suspected to be arson on purpose but found no evidence of, was a very evil thing. And Alice has never been bullied. On the contrary, she has a very good relationship with one of the girls in the classroom, but since the beginning of the new semester, their relationship is not as good as it was before. Everyone in Alice's class, to be precise, has become a little afraid of her. Why? I asked suspiciously. A slight bead of sweat broke out on the tip of Smith's nose. Alice was kidnapped in her freshman year of high school. Before she was kidnapped, she was a very quiet and introverted person, but since she was kidnapped, her personality has changed drastically and she has become very outgoing. Alice's classmates said that she gave off a very strange vibe. Even her eating habits were different from before, like she was a different person. Smith, I found the news at the time when Alice was kidnapped. I saw a picture on Smith's cell phone of the kidnapper who was arrested at the time. It was a very mean-looking woman. But what scared me the most was that the woman in the photo was smiling. And her smiling demeanor was very similar to Alice's smile that I had seen before. Smith looked at me and said something that made me wince. Anna, do you think that what came back then was the real Alice? I shivered at Smith's words. I thought back to the years I spent with Alice. Alice has a tomboyish personality, but has always taken care of me. I remember a time in college when I got food poisoning, got vomit all over my shirt and pants, and was a mess. It was Alice who took care of me all night long, wiping away the vomit from my body little by little. At the time I had only one thought, to be friends with Alice for life. But then I suddenly realized that I didn't know anything about Alice's past. She never told me about the fire and the kidnapping that happened at her high school. That's when my cell phone rang again. I looked down and it was Alice's phone. No, to be precise, it's Alice from a week later. I looked at Smith. I'm going to the bathroom. I quickly walked to the restroom in my room and picked up the phone. On the other end of the line, it was still Alice's voice with a sobbing tone. How come the phone cut off so quickly before? I still have a lot to say and it took me a long time to get through. Anna, I'm going to tell you something very important about Smith. After you died, I've been having someone look into Smith, and he actually has a twin brother. Smith's brother grew up with a very strange personality, still wetting his bed at age 12, enjoying animal cruelty and going through the often committing violent acts against classmates, which is typical of a potential murderer. When Smith was 14 years old, his brother beat a classmate to the point of serious injury and lost a lot of money. The night before his brother was to go to juvenile hall, there was a fire in the house and Smith's brother died in the fire outright. Anna, I've been wondering why Smith is keeping this from us. Would you say that the man who died in the fire back then could have been the real Smith? My heart snapped. Twins generally come to look extremely similar, so what if it wasn't Smith who survived that year, but his twin brother. To escape punishment, Smith's brother then lived as Smith. My breathing was steep. Who's telling the truth, Alice or Smith? Just at that moment, a knock sounded at the door. Anna, are you okay? I heard you seem to be talking to someone in there. Smith's voice came from the doorway. I was quick to steady my breathing. I'm fine. Suddenly, Alice on the phone lowered her voice and said in fear, Anna, the cause of your death has changed. Your cause of death has changed from falling from a great height to a broken heart. You were stabbed to death. My heart was beating wildly. I carefully bent over and got down on the ground. Through the doorway, I saw Smith's feet. And the one he held in his hand, the extremely sharp knife. At that point, the voice on the cell phone screeched to a halt. The 1-minute call time is up. Remaining calls, 3. The doorknob creaked and twisted slowly. I backed away in horror. The next moment, the door opened. Smith stood in the doorway, the sharp knife held in his hand glowing with a harsh reflection. He gave me a small smile, his expression obscure. I took 2 steps back, my back against the sink, and looked at Smith warily. Anna, Alice can be a very dangerous person and we need weapons for defense. He handed me the knife. I took the knife and gripped it hard in my hand. Smith, didn't you once have a twin brother? Smith's expression changed for a split second. His eyes twinkled twice. Anna, who told you that? My heart sank. Why didn't you ever tell me? Smith stared at me without a word. I always felt as if he was watching for my reaction. After a long silence, Smith let out a soft sigh. Anna, all this time I didn't want to tell you about this. It's been a scar for me. My brother, who is a sociopathic maniac, used to do a lot of crazy and cruel things. But the night of the fire, he saved me, protected me under his body. And he, himself, became a charred corpse. I've always hated and feared this brother, but in the end, it was he who saved me with his life. So, Anna, I hate to bring up this past with you. Smith said with a heavy expression. Then why didn't you tell me about the insurance you took out for me? I held Smith's eyes. A flicker of surprise appeared on his face before he said helplessly, Alice told you, didn't she? I have a very close schoolmate, you've seen him before, just the one that looks stupid. He's recently switched to selling insurance. I thought I'd help him out a bit, so I bought 2 insurance policies from him. I not only got you one, I got one for myself. He showed me a chat he had with his schoolmate. Indeed, Smith bought himself a copy. I got confused in my mind. I have been with Smith for 2 years and he has been nothing but good to me. I have an average relationship with my family of origin, and it's Smith and Alice who fill that void. I began to have doubts. Could these 2 people who have been so good to me really be my murderers? What if I really did accidentally slip and fall down the stairs? It's just that they don't want to accept that fact. That's when Smith grabbed my hand. Anna, Alice has been stirring up trouble between us. I'm weak. There must be something wrong with that water. The question. For that kidnapping case back then, I specifically asked my classmate who is a police officer. At that time, by the time the police arrived, Alice was the only one left at the scene, and the woman who kidnapped Alice had already disappeared. The police asked Alice a lot of questions, but Alice couldn't answer any of them, including the whereabouts of the woman, and even Alice forgot about her parents. It's like she's lost her memory, she can't remember anything, but don't you think it's strange? The way she smiles, she really looks like the kidnapper who disappeared. And Alice is very similar in height and build to the kidnapper, except for her age. Smith said with a stony face. Cold sweat oozed down my back. That's when my cell phone rang again. It's future Smith on the phone. I glanced at Smith, still in his face, and picked up the phone. Anna, I finally got through again. It's 10:30 and in a few seconds there's going to be a loud bang downstairs. Ring, I'll check downstairs alone for your safety. You mustn't let me go downstairs, you must let me stay by your side. Suddenly, the call came to a screeching halt. But this time, it was only for a mere 30 seconds. And it was Smith who hung up of his own accord. Like there's some sudden emergency over there. Number of calls, 2. Just then, there was a loud bang from downstairs. Like something heavy, falling to the ground. Smith frowned. Anna, I'll go check it out. I blurted out, don't go. But it's already too late. Smith ran out anyway. I got nervous and dropped my cell phone on the floor. I bent down and picked it up. The phone's interface, however, is the shooting interface. I think I should have accidentally touched the photo button by mistake when I just dropped it. Suddenly, I realized there was an extra picture in the album. The shot was taken in the first few seconds. I shuddered and clicked on the photo. The photo is very blurry. But it was still evident that there was someone hiding under the bed. It's Alice. Her face was very blurry in the darkness, but I could still make out her eyes, which were looking at me dead on. Alice, hiding under the bed now. Just now Smith and I were both in the restroom. And didn't notice if someone had snuck in. I also finally realized why the future Smith made sure I couldn't let the present one go. My throat was unusually dry and my hand squeezed the knife hard. I see you, Alice. I hissed. Alice crawled out from under the bed. The look on her face appeared tense. I just snuck in here while you guys weren't looking, and I made the noise downstairs, and I was the one who put a cell phone there on purpose to distract Smith. Anna, what Smith told you is indeed true. I was indeed kidnapped my freshman year of high school, and the woman who kidnapped me was a psychopath. I was held captive by her for 3 days, and for those 3 days she tortured me in every way, forcing me to eat cockroaches, to eat her feces. She was a complete lunatic. She tortured me, and then she hugged me and kissed me with those foul-smelling mouths and said she loved me. Alice's face showed pain. I was so stimulated that it caused me to lose my memory when I was rescued, and I can't really remember where that woman went. But every single one of them is pushing me. They're asking me where the hell that woman went, if I'm purposely hiding it, and I'm really hurting. After I regained my memory, I tried to be cheerful, to be big-headed, just to forget the experience of those 3 days, to forget the room that smelled so bad. But I was wrong. I couldn't get over it, I couldn't get it out of my head, and people drifted away from me, and then my classroom suddenly and unexpectedly caught fire, and I didn't come back that day because I went to see a psychiatrist. I'm sorry, Anna, I didn't tell you this and lied about being bullied because I was so scared that you would leave me. That sordid experience is my most inferior memory, and I don't want you to know about it, not at all. Alice said tearfully. Hearing this moved me a bit. At that moment, Smith's footsteps sounded as he came up the stairs. Alice dashed into the restroom at breakneck speed and locked the door. The look on her face was very serious and tense. Anna, I've always been a good judge of character, and from the first moment I saw Smith, I smelled something in him. Alice gave a look of disgust. Like the woman who kidnapped me back then, they were filled with the smell of decay, the stench of evil in the soul, so I started to investigate Smith privately, and I really did get some useful information out of it. Smith has a sociopathic twin brother, right? I looked at Alice and said. Alice gave me a surprised look. Anna, I can't believe you knew all that. Did you investigate Smith too? She took 2 steps closer to me. I suspect that the real Smith is dead, and it's the sociopathic pervert who survived. Although I haven't found the evidence now, I'm sure that given time, I'll be able to find it. Anna, please, you must believe me. Alice said with conviction. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. Anna, why did you lock the door? It was Smith's voice. Alice made a shushing motion at me. She signaled me with her eyes to open a side window. I opened the window and the cold raindrops hit me in the face. I saw a ladder that appeared in the window. We need to get out of here. Staying here will only give Smith a chance to get at us. I've got the ladder ready in advance. You go down first, Anna. Alice said in a sharp tone. Suddenly, my cell phone rang again. It's the future Smith. I chose to pick up the phone anyway. Anna, aren't you with me now? Your time of death was moved up and it was just 5 minutes later. The place of your death has also changed. You fell out of the restroom window. Now, get out of the bathroom. You're not with Alice, are you? I've found proof that she's not the real Alice. Anna, just now my police classmate told me that the real Alice's body was found, already a skeleton, and that she died exactly on the 3rd day after she was kidnapped and taken away. What's in front of you now is not Alice, it's the one wearing Alice's face, the kidnapper. If you're with Alice now, make sure you kill her with that knife I gave you. She was a vicious kidnapper who had the intent to kill you, and killing her was nothing more than self-defense. You are a brave girl, Anna, and must live. The call was disconnected again. Number of calls, 1. Anna, open the door. Smith at the door cried out anxiously. The doorknob shook very violently. Alice looked at me anxiously. Anna, what are you waiting for? You come down first, this door won't last much longer. I watched her silently. Anna, why don't you go down first? I said slowly. Alice froze. Smith is targeting you, Anna, your well-being is the most urgent. Her eyes were filled with concern for me. And that's when my cell phone rang again. I knew that this was my last chance to call. I picked up the phone. It's Alice's phone. Anna, I've got proof that Smith isn't himself. My friend's mom was a doctor at a hospital and his mom delivered both Smith and his brother, and I asked her to show me pictures of the twins back then. They do look very much alike, but the only thing that distinguishes them is that Smith's brother has a black birthmark on his back, but not on Smith. Anna, listen to me, your time of death has been advanced, and in 5 minutes, you will be dead in your room. Don't ever open the bathroom door, don't let Smith in, do what I say, Anna, and I'll never hurt you. The last call was disconnected. Number of calls, 0. Now, it's only up to me to decide who is the one who killed me. I stared at Alice's face, but remembered a lot. In college, when I had my first breakup, Alice hugged me, who was crying up a storm, and said she had me. When I was sick, it was Alice who carried me on her back every time, making a mad dash to the infirmary. At this moment, I have my own judgment in my mind. No, to be precise, the time has come for me to fight back. 6 hours before death, the clock was turned back to 8 p.m. Before I got the call from Smith, I actually got a call. Anna, I'm you 6 hours in the future. We only have a minute to talk, so you don't have to talk, just listen to me. You'll be pushed down the stairs by Smith at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're bleeding a lot, but you're not dead at this point, and you see Smith coming toward you, and he crouches beside you in panic as you beg him to save you. You heard Smith say, Anna, I'm sorry, would have liked to marry you and have a child, but the old policeman who's been watching me seems to have found out who I am, and I need a fortune to go abroad for the rest of my life. He carried you to the 3rd floor, smiled, and threw you down again. The police initially concluded that your cause of death was a slip and fall, but they soon found a clasp from your hand that was tugging at it. You're a very smart girl, and the fact that Smith didn't bother to look at that button you were clutching in your hand is a clue you left for the police. I'm guessing you're, by now, pretty shocked as to why the future you can still call you when you're obviously dead, right? Actually, I'm also very surprised because I'm now, back a minute before I was pushed down by Smith. While I don't know why Smith is hiding from the police, the most important thing right now is that you must live. The phone was disconnected. A wave of horror flooded through me. But I took it in as fast as I could. I looked at Smith, who was watching TV in the living room, and turned to walk into the kitchen. I have moderate depression plus insomnia, and I've gone through some connections before to get some meds that will put me to sleep quickly. I added the pills to the mineral water I kept in the fridge and sat down next to Smith as if nothing had happened. I looked at the side of his face and my mind fell into doubt. I remember all the good Smith did for me. But the future doesn't have to lie to me at all. So I made a decision. I had to strike first to protect myself. There is no movement from Smith and Alice right now, so I have no reason to call the police. The medicine took effect quickly. Smith drifted off to sleep and I lay down beside him. My hand, however, kept squeezing the pocket knife in my pocket. I knew I couldn't relax for a moment. I'll slit Smith's throat if I have to. My eyes were open, staring at the ceiling, but they were unusually sore. My family of origin sucks. My father was a gambling alcoholic. And my mother was very weak, so weak that every time my father beat me, my mother had to hide in her room and didn't dare to come out. She never stood up for me, to protect me as a daughter. I had to lick my wounds on my own while learning to be strong. The last time my father hit me, I resisted. He didn't expect me to resist, and being momentarily off guard, he fell heavily to the ground. The sharp blade plunged into his head. But he'll never think, until he dies, that this blade, I put there on purpose. I turned my head and looked at Smith's sleeping, peaceful face, and involuntary tears flowed from my eyes. Why did you betray me? 9:30. Smith's cell phone rang. I felt his eyes open. I bit my lip. I felt Smith glance at me. I pretended to be asleep, making even breathing sounds. Smith picked up the phone. But he didn't say a word. Soon Smith hung up as if nothing had happened and lay down next to me and fell asleep. But he didn't know that at the moment I climbed up and picked up his cell phone. There's a 1-minute call on the phone. But when I saw the caller, my pupils suddenly constricted. The caller indicated that this was Smith's number. A phone call to myself. Smith probably never knew that I had installed a secret recording app in his cell phone. Every call he makes is automatically recorded into this software. I opened the app, turned the volume down, and shakily put it to my ear. Smith, I'm you a week in the future, so please don't be surprised and listen to me. You're on the run from the police. You have no money and are living like a gutter rat. You were smart enough as a child to get under your unconscious brother when the fire broke out, and that's how you survived the fire. You always knew that your parents favored you more, and in order not to go to juvie, you swapped identities with the dead Smith and lived in Smith's place, and even now, you can't remember your original name. It's just a shame that the police officer who was in charge of your case back then was as dead as a dog, so I knew you had to get out of the country. I know that you were ready to make a move on Anna tonight, but you never expected that when you pushed her down the stairs, she yanked off one of your buttons. And this button is the proof that you're being hunted by the police. Now you have a do-over, and you can kill Anna perfectly, without leaving a trace. But you have to get rid of Alice too. She's as suspicious as that cop, she's been biting at you and she's afraid she's onto something. Look at the old pictures of you two together, she's got her eye on you. But you can't kill Alice yourself, and the best way to get rid of her is by Anna's hand. Alice has an Achilles heel. She was once kidnapped in her freshman year of high school, and that experience left her with a deep shadow of a brief period of amnesia. Coincidentally, there was a fire in her classroom, and no one survived but her. It's a wound she's desperately trying to keep hidden. She's afraid Anna will hate the dirty person she once was, but you can use that to make Anna suspect her. A lie laced with truth is always so much more true than a fiction. I put Smith's cell phone back in its original position with a calm face, but my hands were shaking uncontrollably. 10 o'clock at night. The phone rings for Smith from the future. And I pretended to be horrified and answered the phone. Anna, I don't want to run away, and now that I've found out who this scumbag really is, I'm going to put him in jail myself. I looked at Alice calmly and said softly. So I need you to cooperate with me. Next moment. The door made a loud bang and fell to the ground with a crash. Smith kicked in the door. Anna. I put a knife to Alice's neck. I'm very hard. A shallow bloodstain appeared on Alice's neck. She breathed in sharply. I know that Smith is very suspicious. I had to convince him that Alice and I had turned against each other. Smith, what do we do with her? Call the police. I said with a hoarse sob. But I'm watching for Smith's reaction. Sure enough, he didn't agree to call the police. He's afraid of the police, afraid of being found out who he really is. We can't call the police, we have no proof at this time that the current Alice was the kidnapper back then. Anna, we have to get rid of her. Alice was perfectly utilizing her superb acting skills at the moment. She cried out, screaming and yelling in anger, Anna, you can't do this to me. Everything he said was a lie. Shut up. I said viciously. Smith seemed to enjoy our reaction. If I didn't know him well enough, I wouldn't have realized that there was a sick pleasure in his eyes at the moment. He really enjoys seeing us kill each other. Kill her. I wouldn't dare, killing is a crime. I said, trembling. Smith walked over to me, he took my hand with the knife and whispered in my ear, don't be afraid to kill. It's easy, just close your eyes and I'll do it, just a little stroke. He was so excited that his voice trembled. What a pervert. I sneered inwardly. Next. Smith looked at me incredulously. Because the knife that was across Alice's neck was now aimed at his chest. I looked at him with a smirk. Killing does seem to be pretty easy, just a little bit. The sharp knife stabbed slightly into his chest. I saw, for the first time, fear on Smith's face. He wanted to struggle. But Alice had a death grip on his arm. Go to hell, pervert. She said fiercely. Smith, who was on the thin side of the scale, couldn't break free of Alice, who had been a weightlifter. A hint of wolfishness showed on his face as he finally removed his disguise and looked at us sinisterly. When did you find out? It's not possible. I've done a good job of disguising myself. Unless. As if realizing something, he stopped talking, and his whole body deteriorated. Smith was taken away by the police. His true identity is also revealed. Turns out his real name is Thomas. 1 week later. Alice and I went to a hotel to celebrate the aftermath of the robbery. Anna, do you have a feeling that this hotel has a sense of déjà vu? Alice frowned and nodded back. Indeed, I feel the same way, but it's obviously our first time here. I shrugged my shoulders, what the hell, forget about it and get a meal first. Perhaps I will never know, if I don't change my fate, that this hotel is the very place where my funeral will be held in a week's time. Late at night, I got a call. The caller showed up as my husband. He told me very seriously that I would die at 2 in the morning. But he was now, clearly lying next to me, sleeping soundly. I whipped my head around to Smith, who was making even breathing sounds. His eyes were closed and he was sleeping. His cell phone, too, sat quietly charging on the nightstand. But the voice coming from the phone was indeed Smith's. Even the caller ID was Smith's number. Anna. His voice sounded excited and shocked, with a hint of choking. I subconsciously responded. Immediately after that, I heard Smith's sharp intake of breath coming from the phone. Anna, what time is it over there? I twisted my head again to confirm that it was, indeed, Smith lying beside me. I answered honestly even though I had a shocked batch inside, 10 o'clock. Smith visibly gasped, "There's still time, Anna. I know you must be surprised right now, but you must listen to what I have to say next. I'm here in a week's time, just after I've attended your funeral. You will die at 2 a.m., which is 4 hours later, from..." There was a pause in Smith's tone. "This is outrageous. I'm beginning to think it's a prank call. Perhaps someone recorded Smith's voice and faked another segment with AI." But when I picked up Smith's cell phone, a chill rose from my tailbone. Smith's cell phone said, "On hold." And the call, it was me. This is indeed a call from the future. I calmed down quickly. "The cause of your death, a fall from a height. The result of the police investigation is that you lost your footing and fell from the 3rd floor, and because you landed on your head, it directly caused your death. However, I don't believe that you lost your footing and died. I am afraid I am asleep now. Anna, please wake me up at once, and keep me awake not to fall asleep, for I heard in a daze the sound of you and Alice quarreling, and then the loud noise you made in falling down the stairs. I suspect that Alice killed you, and this time, I absolutely must protect you. Alice is my BFF. This morning, Smith and Alice arrived at this villa on a deep hill. The villa was purchased by Smith's parents before they left the country, and they seldom returned to the country. The key had been kept in Smith's place. The three of us would often come to the villa and barbecue al fresco. Originally we expected to go down the mountain in the evening, but unexpectedly suddenly encountered heavy rainfall, landslides, only in the villa on the overnight. The sheer volume of information overwhelmed me for a moment. I was about to question Smith when the phone hung up abruptly. I saw on my cell phone, a line was displayed. Number of calls, 5. The call lasted exactly 1 minute. Could it be that this number represents the number of times I can talk to the future Smith? But I had a hard time believing that Alice would kill me. Because it's been 5 years since Alice and I met in college. We were so close we could almost wear the same pants. But I decided to wake up Lou Smith anyway. "Smith, wake up." But Smith, for some reason, was sleeping very deeply, and no matter how much I patted him, he just slept through it. It's not quite like normal sleep. Smith suffers from mild anxiety and he is a very light sleeper. Just a little movement and he could wake up. I suddenly remembered that during the night Smith had drunk a bottle of mineral water handed to him by Alice. Did Alice add something to this water? My heart sank. Just then, I heard a knock at the door. The next second, Alice's voice rang out. "Anna, are you asleep? If you could come out and talk to me." Her voice was a bit hushed compared to her usual one, as if she were speaking with her mouth covered.